Welcome. If this is your first time joining, or even if you've been joining for a while and you've come back for more, I really appreciate having you on the call. My name is Melanya Kushla. I'll talk about myself in just a few minutes to provide some background and context if you aren't as familiar with me and my work, or haven't been playing along for a bit. But this is our, oh no, it's not August. Wow, it's September 23rd, despite what the screen says. I got the date right, but not the month. But September 23rd, you guys know what day it is. I obviously do not, but thank you for being here. I think we're going to have a great time today. I'm going to start by talking a little bit about my background, where I'm coming from, because I do believe that provides context as to what I speak to. But like I said before, I always like to get to know who I'm talking to first. It helps me tailor what I'm going to say to make sure it's always appropriate and relevant. So that is something I do no matter who I'm talking to, where, in what context. I always like to get to know who I'm talking to a little bit better before I start spieling at you. And I do understand most of you, if not all, but probably most of you are dietitians. So I have a little bit of an idea who my audience is. But again, like to get to know you better. So if this is your first call, just say so. That's cool. No shame in that. Hopefully you'll come back again. Are you here today? Wow, I really messed up my slides. Why are you here? Supposed to be the question. You can also just say yes. Yes, I'm here today. And just out of curiosity, do you already practice culinary medicine? Or are you just getting started? Maybe you're just thinking about it. Maybe you've had some exposure. Maybe this is a thought where you're like, oh my gosh, I've thought about this for so long and I didn't realize it was already happening. I need to get on this train. There's no wrong answer here. We're all coming from different places and different spots in this journey. It's been out for a little bit now. I wouldn't necessarily consider it novel, but it is still new. It is still a newer field. It's not quite as broadly accepted yet, though that is increasing. And a lot of my work has been in that, trying to gain acceptance and make it a standard of care. And I'm still to this day championing that. But yeah, that's okay. There's places for everyone and at all points of this journey. And it's not a contest whatsoever. All forms of culinary medicine are relevant and appreciated and help the greater good. So yeah, just pop a little bit in the chat, kind of let me know where you're at. I'm going to keep my chat box open here so I can see what you guys are saying. Um, if you're saying anything. We're still talking about food, which is great. But yeah, please just share a little bit about yourself. It does help me to get to know you, even if I don't talk to you point blank right now. Okay. So a little bit about me. I've been practicing culinary medicine for 12 plus years now, something around that. It always goes up and I don't keep track too well, but I do update it once in a while. And I led the creation of the world's largest teaching kitchen program at a single integrated healthcare system in the world. This would be the Department of Veterans Affairs. I no longer work for them, but I did for about 10 years. And within that capacity, I had the chance to champion this type of program, advocate for it, and help it become more of a standard. And it was a standard of care within that entity. And I had the opportunity to serve 200,000 plus participants every year. So quite a bit of reach there. In that capacity, I also helped to grow over 200 different programs, help them get started and flourish, serving over 40,000 clients personally in my teaching kitchens throughout my career. Within my work in the VA and outside of the VA with my other affiliates and just people I meet on LinkedIn or at conferences, I've supported over 500 other dietitians in starting or enhancing their culinary medicine practice. So this is my jam. I am here to help you, and I have quite a bit of experience and perspective on this. And I've done it the well-funded, fancy way, and I've also done it the scrappy way. So there's a lot of in between. And like I said before, there's really I don't want to say there's no wrong way to do it, but there's a lot of right ways to do it. It doesn't all have to be one way. So why am I here? I mentioned this a little bit, but it is my dream to see this type of intervention, interactive nutrition education become the standard. I really fully, truly believe in it with all of my heart, and I want to see it be everywhere and accessible to people in every practice and primary healthcare facility. And I'm doing so. That's part of why I created this Infuse call, is to help empower other dietitians and clinicians in this field doing this work with the knowledge and tools. I don't feel like that is information that should be gate kept whatsoever. And I'm not saying it is, but there is a little bit of that happening. That's just kind of how we are as human beings and organizations to a degree sometimes. So I've created this so I can freely share my knowledge and expertise with you guys and help you create more. And show you that you don't need all the fancy stuff to get started. I started with nothing but my enthusiasm and a will to do this. And I found opportunities. I created opportunities for myself and I built things up from there. And you can do the same thing. You probably have already. So just keep doing that. You can always find more and create more. And I really want to see this scale, not just within the United States, but globally. So this is also a global call to help dietitians around the world do this and integrate it into those care models. So you are in the right place. Thank you for being here. I'm glad you're here. Um, you're in the right place if you want to learn more about culinary medicine. You don't know where to start, or you do, but there's a lot going on and you don't know what might be the best place for you to start. Maybe you've already started, you just want to expand. Maybe you've had a program land in your lap and you're like, I need to do something with this. What can I do? Or I know there's an opportunity here. Maybe you just want to feel more confident in yourself as a facilitator or integrate this into your private practice. You don't necessarily have to have an organization behind you to practice culinary medicine. You can do this in just a clinical practice as well. And maybe you just like to hang out with other like-minded people. That is cool too. No wrong answers there. A little bit more about me. As I said, I've been doing this for 12 years, but I like to say I got my start way back in the 90s as a child, just cooking things up in my kitchen. I've always had a passion for cooking, and I feel like most of us on this call can probably relate to a degree, right? For me, it always went naturally with nutrition. I didn't really think I wanted to be a dietitian. To truth be told, I didn't know that existed as a career path until I actually got to college. But as soon as I found it, I was like, yes, this makes so much sense. And then as I went through my education, I was kind of taken aback, to be honest, that it didn't include more cooking and food, like talking about food. And I was like, okay, we're missing something here. This isn't necessarily translating. So when I started practicing, I always would involve food in it. And then it just felt natural. Like it doesn't make sense to talk about it and be talking about what people are eating without the conversation in and around food and why we choose certain foods and how food affects us and makes us feel. All of those topics, to me, are part of our nutrition therapy and how we make connections with people and get them to care and tap into their own values and priority system. So that's kind of what brought me here. So I am a dietitian. I'm also a health education specialist. And within my background, I really focus on those drivers of behavior change within folks. And also with you, right? I want you to go out and champion these things too, which is going to be our topic for today, advocacy and championing things. Um, and yeah, I think that's enough about. I don't want to talk about myself too much. I know people who've been on the call are like, "Well, we've seen this already." But for those of you that are newer, I just want to introduce myself again. So I am here to share knowledge, skills, and perspective, but I really want to help you align with your strengths because, like I said before, there's a bunch of right ways to do this. There's no one true way to run a culinary medicine practice or program. There's a lot of different ways to do it, and you need to find the way that works for you, plays to your strengths, aligns with your values, and meets your clients where they are at the same time, which we've talked about before. If you want more information on that, I have all of these recorded sessions on my YouTube. If you just find Infuse, it's called Infuse Culinary Medicine. I'm sure you can find me on YouTube if you type my name in. There's not too many Melanyas that do culinary medicine. So you can find my channel there. I also post them and send them out via email. So I'm sure everybody will get in contact with those. But we've talked about that to this point, a lot of that reflection on working to your strengths and filling in the gaps with other resources or other people, inviting them into your team, which is what we're going to kind of build upon today. So anything standing in your way to integrating culinary medicine into your practice, that is our topics for this call. And if you want to talk about something that I haven't addressed yet, now I do have like a list of things I'm going to get to in my head, but please tell me, please talk to me. Say, I am doing this, but this is my dilemma, or I have a question about this, and then I can just work it into a future call. And that helps me help you. So Real quick before I get into today's workshop, I do want to announce, I announced this on the last call, but I am opening up a culinary medicine mastermind to start next year. Enrollment is going to start next month in October, so I'm not enrolling anybody quite yet. And I've just announced it on this call. So just putting it out there. If you're interested, this is zero commitment at this point. You're not enrolling. But if you are interested, you can sign up for the wait list and you'll be the first to get the information and make that decision. It's going to be pretty exclusive. I'm thinking like 6 to 8 people, maybe 10 or 12. I don't think I'm going to go that high though. I think we're going to keep it very small so I can serve you the way you need to be served kind of thing. If it gets too many people, then I risk taking on too much obligation and I can't show up the way I want to show up for you. So that's coming and it's going to be great. We're even going to do an in-person I like to think of it as a retreat because I love retreats, but a retreat where we do some hands-on workshop skills too. So that'll be a nice fun thing coming up. That's going to open up next month. So just keep an eye out for that. And if you're extra interested, just scan that QR code and that way I know I'm like on the same wavelength. I'm like, okay, we'll get them the info first. You get first dibs on it. If you're interested, I also offer just one-to-one and small group mentorship as well to start or enhance your culinary medicine practice. Okay, let's get into the good stuff. Questions for you today. And this is going to lead into our conversation in just a minute. What impact do you want to have? I'm sure you are having an impact. That is not in question. This is not like you don't need to stand here and you're not on trial. But what impact do you want to have? Where do you see this going? This is like a future question too. When I ask you to think about your legacy, what comes to mind? What are you building? What is your vision? What is the big thing that you're working on, right? There's the work that you're doing, but then there's the bigger picture of how does this look in the future? What is the lasting impact on the communities that I feel called to serve? Things like that. What is that? I would really love it if you would share in the chat. I understand this is kind of a personal question, so if you don't feel comfortable, please don't feel like you have to. But there's no shame, and again, no wrong answers. It's okay if it is selfish too. That's fine. Again, no judgment. I'm genuinely curious. What impact do you want to have? What is driving you in this work? Why are you even here? That was my initial question. Why are you here? Not are you here? But what do you want to be remembered as doing? That's another way to think about this one. Please put those answers in the chat if you feel brave enough. Oh, we have a few. I want to help people feel better and to know more. I love it. Simple. Simple. Doesn't have to be complex. It can be simple. Simple is great. Help patients with kidney disease enjoy their cultural and favorite foods in a way that helps preserve their kidney function. Oh, I love it. You're bringing joy back into their lives and showing them that they don't have to give it up for the sake of health. I love it. Okay. Please keep putting them. Oh, yes, more. Again, I will read these afterward. It brings me great joy. So I do appreciate you sharing. It would be nice to have a resource, like this in West Virginia, where I'm from, to help combat illnesses in a historically poorer state. Help clients have a positive relationship with food. Yeah. Love seeing the light bulb go off in people's heads. Oh, I love it too. When they learn a simple way to make healthy food that tastes good. And I want to do more of that. Beautiful. Look at these. These are wonderful statements. They're not, you didn't sit here working on this for like hours and hours. This is just riffing. And this is the gold here, right? This is speaking from the heart, which is important too. That's going to be a bit of today's topic as we talk about advocacy and gaining buy-in. Because we start to cross, I don't want to say a line. It is a line, but it's like kind of a made-up line in a way, or not a hard line, we'll say. We are health professionals and we're taught to be very sciencey, right? Evidence-based practice, evidence, everything, which is cool. I'm not saying that's not there and not relevant and not important. But when we have science, but we also have passion, right? And we are combining the two. We are doing heart-centered work. And I know that's a little bit of a woo term, but that's exactly why we're here. We believe in this and we see the good it can do in the world and we're championing that good, whether it's on a large scale or just in our own practice. We are still doing that work. And we've kind of been trained to leave our own bias out of things as much as we can, right? So by championing something we're passionate about, at the same time, it starts to come up, butt heads a little bit with this ingrained sense of trying to do things as unbiased as possible. We're going to talk about that a little bit more too. But I find advocacy is a little bit of a hot term, or taboo in a sense. It shouldn't be, but I think it is. So I'm just kind of calling this out as I see it. It is something we all do and are probably already all doing currently. It kind of goes hand in hand with any type of innovative approach or new thing. This is how we push the envelope. This is how we discover more and, reach new frontiers. So it's certainly not a bad thing by any means. But like anything, we need to wield it very mindfully and ethically, right? Because we do have the power to create change and we want to make sure that is beneficial change. Um, you can keep popping oops, I just went way ahead there. You can keep popping your answers to the questions in the chat, please, too. Just don't, as I keep talking, I'd still want to hear some more of those. Oh, never heard of advocacy being taboo, which I'm grateful for. That's good. I'm not saying like it is, but I do find a lot of dietitians don't feel like they are or don't feel like they can or should in a way. Like they kind of we kind of just stay quiet sometimes. When we feel like we should say something, we're like, no, don't rock the boat. Something like that. So not like formally taboo. I also think there's a little bit of conflict avoidance here, right? We are also, and that's just a natural human thing, right? We don't like to elicit conflict. Some people do, but most people don't. We avoid conflict, and advocacy is viewed as a type of conflict, right? You are confronting something with the aim to persuade or change their mind and kind of get them to see your perspective and get them on your team. That is a bit confrontational. And that is also something I think people do naturally tend to avoid. Yeah. Let's see. Anything with medicine in the title makes docs nervous. They did the same thing with, yeah, they did complementary alternative medicine. You are correct, Debbie. Yep. Yeah. Um, yeah, people get nervous, people get uncomfortable, you are putting yourself out there when you do advocacy work. You really are. And I think that's part of it too. It is a leap. It is a very bold statement that I believe in this and I'm willing to fight you about it kind of thing. In a way, right? And that feels uncomfortable because it clashes with you know, our persona, so to speak, of being agreeable, being, working as a team, being collaborative. That's a good word, collaborative. But the truth is, advocacy and collaboration coexist. They don't negate one another. And you can advocate in a way that isn't super confrontational. You can do advocacy in different ways. So that's kind of what we're going to unpack a little bit about today. Unpack. Sorry, I'm just kind of like half reading, half thinking, half talking, apparently. Whew. Yeah. There's a lot of ethical dilemmas that pop up when we talk about advocacy. And I think that's another reason people sometimes don't feel comfortable touching it in a sense. Like they don't feel like it is part of their role. But it is a necessary part. Like I said, even if we don't think we're doing it, we probably are to a degree, and that's okay. There's not like a demand you have to do so much advocacy or you have to do advocacy in certain realms. But I want to talk about this. I want to get it out from under the rock a little bit because it will thrust you forward into greatness, so to speak. If you do it, properly and ethically. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about with today's topic, this workshop. And I have some points prepared for you. But yeah, there's a little bit going on there. And I say why, like I have my answers to this question, but as we're seeing in the chat, there's other answers too, right? There's other reasons people feel taboo around it or feel maybe taboo is a very strong word to use here, but maybe it just makes people uncomfortable. Point blank, right? And because it's discomfort, we tend to avoid it. It tends to get the back burner. We will naturally avoid things that we deem unpleasant. That is human nature, that's human behavior, right? So let's maybe find a way to make advocacy less unpleasant. I gotta tell you guys real quick, as I was putting these slides together, there might be one in here. I kept spelling the word advocacy over and over, and it kept coming out like avocado. I kept putting a D in that second C, avocado-y. Just, I thought, then like mixing up my letters, it was pretty funny. I thought it was funny, so I shared. But so I apologize if you see any avocado-y words in there today. But we're going to talk about advocacy and finding ways to make it more palatable, make it less daunting, maybe less confrontational feeling, less postury, and just more natural, right? Like everything we've talked about and done to this point, align yourself, right? Work with your strengths, work with your natural abilities and tendencies. You have skills that not everybody has. That's okay. We don't all have to look the same. We can still serve different purposes within this greater good. Okay, so we're going to define advocacy a little bit more clearly. Not that I think you don't know what it means, but it does tend to get mixed up a little bit sometimes. We're going to talk about ethics right at the get-go, explore why we need to advocate and for what, and then talk about how to do this. Like, how do we get that buy-in? Because that's really what advocacy is. It can take different forms, like I said, but ultimately, we advocate because we want to generate buy-in from some sort of decision maker or stakeholder, right? Whether it's leadership, that's very common for anybody working in an organization. You want to generate upper level leadership buy-in so they support your program. This way you get more funding, you get more, maybe even just more autonomy to do what you need to do with that program, excuse me, to move it forward and to get those outcomes. Maybe you just gain resources. You gain an ally, support, a referring physician, or a program that you can integrate your program with, right? There's so many different benefits that help you expand, not just the program itself, but your impact. So you are amplifying the work you're already doing. That's really what advocacy is at the core. I'm already talking about it. I haven't even gotten through my learning objectives. See, I get so excited about things. So I might as well move on to that slide. You're amplifying. That's what you're doing. You're advocating, you're amplifying, you're speaking up for and championing things that benefit your population, right? At its core. So it's a little different from marketing. Marketing is a little bit more salesy. It doesn't have to be selling like you're getting a sale, but it is selling something to someone. So you're like marketing this concept, trying to get them to literally, I mean, it is a little bit advocacy, but there is a line here. Marketing gets a little bit more misleading sometimes, whereas advocacy remains transparent. And you have a clear motive for what you're doing. And the advocacy piece of this, and this is kind of what separates advocacy from manipulation, which is not that different of a term, but sounds a lot worse, right? Is those ethics and transparency. But we use the word marketing too, and I do see them kind of being used interchangeably. And then the other term I see in this discussion is just education, which is still part of it, right? Market advocacy, they're all separate things, but they do kind of borrow from one another, and you can have a little bit of everything wrapped into one. Because part of advocacy could be education. However, education is definitely not biased, right? You're presenting both sides of things. You're kind of, this is just the information, plain and simple. I'm not really trying to change your mind about anything. Whereas advocacy, you are trying to change their mind, but for the better, ideally. So you can use education as a tool to help your advocacy. You can use marketing as a tool to help the advocacy, but they are a bit different there. Oh, sorry, I keep touching my mouse. So with advocacy, it really is going above and beyond just simply doing. You are expanding, you're amplifying what you're already doing there. So how do we do this, or what do we do this, right? I like to think if you haven't done this too much already, we'll say, or you don't really know what to advocate for, think of who could help you. What would be an asset to your program or your practice? What are some things that you don't have that you feel like you need or could use or would benefit from, right? Maybe I want to serve single mothers that are recovering from drug addiction or alcohol abuse. What would I need to help better serve that population? So maybe partnerships with facilities that support these folks, maybe even You could take that would be more like a partnership championing so you can gain access and help them. But advocacy could also look like you propose a policy change or a law change to provide more support or to remove a barrier for this population. So you could even go to your local wow, blanking on the word, people in charge. Jurisdiction is what comes to mind. But government, there we go. Gosh. Your local government officials, whether it's county level, state level, national level, that's cool too, right? And advocate for this policy. But it doesn't have to be that. You can advocate in different ways. You can also just speak up for things when you're in meetings with other people or at conferences, right? You can advocate for certain causes. You can champion certain populations and their needs, things like that. But thinking about that, who or what would be an asset to this population? What, do they fill a gap? We've talked about that in the past too. So making those partnerships, it can be, kind of an arrangement of mutual beneficients, but it can also be, I mean, we do want them to benefit from it, but it can also be, hey, this is something I know you care about. If you helped me, I could help them more, kind of thing. So approaching it that way. And again, different forms. So you don't have to do all of them, and you don't have to do advocacy work that feels uncomfortable to you, right? As we talked about before, there's a little bit of a conflict avoidance. So if that's not your jam, find a way to still champion things without putting yourself in the position of discomfort. Because we're all doing this out of passion for the most part, right? Or a deep concern, something that goes deep in us at the end of the day. And we can stand up for that. But at the same time, we don't want to let that burn us out. So if we're doing advocacy work and it doesn't really align with our natural strengths, we're not going to last very long, right? And it's going to end up being burning the candle at both ends. So find a way to work this in or and seize those opportunities, right? That align with what maybe something you're already doing that feels like a natural next step. Doesn't necessarily have to be too forced. Yeah. And that kind of leads us into this conversation of advocating with ethics, right? That's the ethical bit. And this is where, again, I bring in that taboo because it inherently is biased. Advocacy is biased, like by nature. We are advocating for a specific purpose or cause. That specificity is bias. But not all bias, I don't think all bias is bad. Naturally, we can never escape true, all bias, right? We are human beings and we all have some at our core. And we can act as, unbiased as possible, as fair and objectively as we can, which we should still do. But we need to accept that these two things can coexist. We can practice with evidence-based standards and present unbiased education in our work, but at the same time, advocacy itself is going to be biased. But if we keep our ethics in mind, it's not a bad thing. Not a bad thing. We focus on positive change and beneficience and just be aware of the effect of your changes too. That's the other thing. Kind of the do no harm mentality, right? You might have the best interests of someone in mind and you make this change, but perhaps it harms some other faction you didn't consider. You cannot possibly know everything. Maya Angelou has a really great quote about this. Do the best you can. And when you know better, do better. That's it. That's all any of us can do. And just do that. Do the best you can. And if you learn about something, you know, uh, um, an adverse response of some sort to your advocacy work, just shift, just adjust course a little bit, right? You don't have to stop everything you're doing, but you don't want to continue on with the knowledge that you are creating harm somewhere, right? So the do no harm principle applies. And other guiding principles could be informed consent, just like within research, right? Informed consent, client-centered care, transparency. Allow these things to guide your advocacy efforts, right? A good bead, I feel like, is our gut feeling. If something doesn't feel right, it's not right, right? Try again until it feels like, okay, this is solid. I believe in this. I can get behind this. I would stake my name on it, kind of thing, right? If something in there doesn't feel quite right, then probably something isn't quite right yet. It doesn't mean it's wrong to do entirely. You just got to figure out and pinpoint what is the thing that isn't quite right about this? What's not working here? Observe and remove conflicts of interest. as they arise or as you notice them. Again, we are not omniscient beings. We can't possibly predict or know everything that will happen, all of the, kind of ripple effect of our actions. We can predict a lot and just do the best you can. And when you learn more, pivot. And then, as much as you can, support your advocacy with evidence. This also couches it in, well, one reality and keeps you as the credible professional as well, right? We don't want to start going around making claims that we have no evidence to back up. And if you do make claims of like forecasting the potential, just be very clear about that. So that goes back to the concept of transparency. Like if maybe you don't have the evidence yet because you're just starting your program, but I will say there's a lot of evidence out there now to support the efficacy of culinary medicine. So we don't have to worry about that too much anymore. So you can pull in evidence from other folks, even if you haven't yet done it yourself. That's cool. But you can also project, but just be clear that this is a projection. Like I am doing this with the hope and expectation and projection that this will be the outcome, right? I haven't yet done this, but this is my projection based on these evidences, facts, literature, whatever you got, right? There are ways to go about it, and you don't have to have it all, know it all, do it all just yet. So if there's any questions, please go ahead and pop them in the chat too as we're going along. I may not have time to get to them all today, but like I said, I can follow up after the call, and I do see some nice chats in there too. Let's see. All right, so why do we need to advocate? I feel like this kind of explains itself, but again, partnerships. We advocate for things because it helps advance the work we're already doing. If we're doing this work, we feel called to serve in certain capacities. We want to do more to help them. And we need a certain amount of like movement to be able to accomplish this, right? If we are going against the grain of established practices, which a lot of culinary medicine is, it is as much as I want it to be. It's not quite yet the norm and standard everywhere. It still is unusual and unique in a lot of places. So when we do that, we need people to give us the benefit of the doubt, in a sense. We need partners and coworkers and leadership to understand that we're doing this kind of in good faith, that this is going to have outcomes that we want. And that's how we expand. That's how we grow beyond just our own little program person practice. We get this out, and we can inspire others to do it too, which is great. This creates sustainability and impact. It amplifies your impact, and having strategic partnerships creates this sustainability. You are one person and you can do a lot of good in this world, but you can do so much more if you have a team. And it doesn't have to be a hired team. I'd say team was just a collection of people that you are working with in many different capacities. So that's why we need to advocate. It gives us some strategic advantages and influence. We can access more resources, more funding. We get more partnerships to expand our program into areas and reach more of the population that we want to serve. And then again, this kind of comes back to the question I asked you before. What is your impact, right? What is your legacy? Why are you doing what you're doing? What do you want to be known for? This is that. That's what advocacy will help get you, right? You might be doing really good work, but if nobody knows, and I'm not saying people knowing is the end all be all, but when people know, they can help you. If they don't know what you're doing, they can't help you, right? You're like doing it in secret. I know you're not doing it in secret, but you know what I mean? Let people know, let people see what you're doing. And that can be maybe the simplest form of advocacy. No pressure, no conflict. You're literally just showing people what you do. That in itself can be advocacy. When we see more of this happening, it emboldens others to do the same too, or even just show what they're doing. Show and tell, right? Everybody's like favorite first grade activity. That's what this comes back to now. So yeah, think about that. What do you want? What do you want this to look like? What is your legacy? And creating something that's bigger than yourself. That really is what advocacy gets you, and that's why we do it. That is why we advocate for things. I guess not ourselves. That sounded very selfish. The impact you're having on your population, that's why we do it. But it increases that impact. And that's your legacy. So, did I skip one? No. Okay, very good. So how do we do this? Like I said before, there's no one way to do things. There's a lot of different ways to advocate, but I wanted to give you a little bit of a primer. If this is something you have been avoiding or something you just maybe want some validation with or some support with, which I'm actually going to mention, I'm having another just specialty call in October to workshop this even further because I feel like this is a really important piece that a lot of people avoid. Um, but how to get that buy-in? Like I said before, identify who could benefit this program or this work that you're doing. What are your key players? Even if they're not like personally connected, like the head honcho of your organization is a good key player because they're a decision maker. They have the decision to allocate resources. That's a great asset. But even people who are just other clinicians can also be assets, right? They can speak to your program with their clients. You know, if they're like, this might be a good fit for you, they can refer people to you. They might have resources you need. Maybe you have all this knowledge and expertise, but you don't have a built-in kitchen. Maybe you could partner with someone with that does have that in their space. So there's a lot of advantages to the advocacy, and it is a natural piece of creating those working relationships and partnerships. Um, but when you're seeking these partners, seeking this buy-in, how do we get that? So I find with this, besides the confrontationalness of it, sometimes we also throw too much at it. Simple and direct is going to be your best bet here. I know you have so much behind this that you care about and are passionate about and want to share with the people you are trying to get the buy-in from. But they don't always care about the same things we care about. Right? So just like we talked about when we're marketing things, not marketing things, when we're managing things in our teaching kitchens itself or our private practice, however we deliver information to our clients, we're meeting our clients where they are at, right? We need to learn them what drives their behaviors, what makes their decisions, right? Things like that. So we can share relevant and pertinent, appropriate information with them. Same thing when we're talking to these stakeholders and key players, right? We can't just assume they think like us. We have to try to think like them as much as we can. Take ourselves out of our own brain for a minute and think what's important to them. And that's what we talk about. We connect their problem to a solution we offer. What problem do you solve for them that is important and relevant to that entity, right? So if this is a community center and I would like the use of their facilities, they don't necessarily care that I'm doing all of this and I have all these programs and I have a business and things like that. But maybe they do care about offering more education to help improve the health of their community. So I could present it that way. It's like, if you allow me to use this facility, this would also give your community access to what I'm offering. And you could work something out there, right? Or if you're presenting this to an upper level leadership, right? Tie this to the organizational goals. How does this support the organizational goals or strategies for that, annual year or something, or that quarter? Or you can get real concrete. And actually, the more specific, the better. Try not to be vague if you can. And that is a tool of communicating this effectively. Like, yes, I can help your people become healthier. We all know that. Yeah. How? People, especially in upper level leadership positions, like to see the evidence, for one, but also get those specific numbers, very numbers driven, because they're managing a lot of things and they don't necessarily have maybe the headspace to get into the weeds on it like we want to get into the weeds on it, right? So simplify it for them and make it something they can very clearly see. Yes, we do this in our population, our maybe our care time decreases, so we conserve resources or we save money. If you can present it in a way that saves the entity money, oh, then you're talking. So that's like top of the line. If you can couch it from that perspective, that would be wonderful. But even just outcomes, right? Like you have better health outcomes, less repeat admissions, things like that. Different things for different organizations. I don't want to go too far on this because I know we're all coming from different places and those specific problems and solutions in that value is going to look different. I just wanted to give some examples there. But Be specific if you can. Use that specific language and avoid being too vague or too broad. And then a big one here is practicing and practicing your elevator pitch, right? Craft an elevator pitch, present the problem, the solution, and why they should care about it. If you present the problem and the solution, they'll already care about the problem if you've done your homework. But remind them why this matters. Sometimes we do need to be reminded, especially people who are overseeing a lot of other people. Just remind them why this matters, why they're here doing this work themselves. All right. So, yeah, there we go. So strategizing this. Now that you've pitched it, right? You got your little elevator pitch here. And I want to segue real quick. I talked about this last time, so I don't want to beat a dead horse here. But that elevator pitch is super important, and practice it. I'm not being silly here. Like, craft it, write it down, say it out loud to yourself in the mirror over and over again, on your car, on the way to work, wherever. Practice telling other people, not just yourself. Tell your people you live with, your spouse, your colleagues. Say it out loud at conferences. Like, really practice it. You want it to just flow, roll off the tongue, because when you are advocating, your own confidence and what you're asking for speaks volumes. And you might be so passionate about this, but if you stumble over your own words trying to get your concept out, that is not going to impart confidence, unfortunately, in communication. So to communicate your value effectively, you really want to have that elevator pitch practiced. That's it. And it doesn't have to be a big deal. It doesn't even have to be perfect. You guys were telling me in the beginning here, just in the chat, what is important to you, what you want your legacy to be, what the impact you want to see is. That is a great start for your elevator pitch, right? You just add a few modifications to that, and that's it. And here's the thing, you can always tweak your elevator pitch down the road. It doesn't have to be one and done. You just get that bad boy out, practice it. Here's the thing, the more you rehearse it, the better it will get. Because as you're rehearsing it and practicing it, saying it to people, you'll be like, oh, I should say it this way instead, or I should add this word, or, oh, that came off too strong. Let me not say it that way again. You will naturally workshop it and kind of use process improvement to make that pitch even better over time. So just by the very nature of practicing and rehearsing it, you will nail it and it will get better. So don't worry about it being too perfect at the beginning. Having anything rehearsed and practiced is still better than word vomiting when you get the opportunity to advocate for something, right? Some people are really good at just coming up with something on the fly, but that is, for most of us, a practiced skill, right? We don't just have the exact words we want at that moment. And we need to practice them. If you've talked about this a lot and you have a lot of experience justifying and advocating, maybe it rolls off the tongue a little bit better, but that rehearsal is important. It does. Anyway, now that you've pitched, follow up. Don't just ghost. You want to have a strong follow-up game here. Not everybody says yes right at the beginning. Sometimes they need time to think and process, but remind them of the value of this. A really nice strategy, and I would have a strategy, like just write down a simple plan, like, once a week or once every other week, I'm going to send an email or I'm going to do a phone call and just follow up on this. And don't just say, hey, have you thought about what I mentioned? Try to be more proactive, perhaps, and think about what their drawbacks might be, and challenge those. Like if they have anything that's keeping them from saying yes, what could you say that would change that? So if you're like, well, maybe we don't have the funding for it, and maybe that's why they haven't said yes, say, I can do this with minimal funding or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Like try to anticipate what those thoughts might be of theirs and challenge those objections before they come or when they come. Something I like to do when I present something is not just present the specifics, but be specific with my questions too. I don't always do this perfectly. I'm not a perfect person, but I try to avoid saying yes or no questions. So instead of saying, do you have any questions? No. And now the conversation is ended. No. Try not to do that, right? Because they might have questions, but a lot of times they won't right then. They need time to kind of mull it over, and sit on that. And this is still an opportunity for you to continue this advocacy, right? You're showing them more and more examples of how this benefits. But instead of saying that yes or no question, ask like a what question or a how question or a why question. So instead of, do you have any questions? Say, what questions do you have? Such a simple thing, right? But it's something not a lot of us think of maybe consciously. And just that little change in wording can have an impact, right? Instead of now they're like, well, what questions do I have? And they'll think about their questions. Maybe they'll still say, I don't have any right now. But that answer took a lot more thought work than simply saying no because they're not ready to answer yet. And you might even get something. Those questions are gold because that tells you where they're at with things, right? It tells you what objections they are thinking of, what barriers they see, and that's what you can work on in your follow-up. You can start to address those barriers. Like I have a plan for this and a plan for this and a plan, all the plans. But that gives you the opportunity to continue that advocacy and much more likely for them to say yes to whatever it is or to like get on your team, whatever it is you are advocating for. Also, please make yourself accessible. Don't just put this out there and then be hard to reach. Like, check your emails, answer your phone, don't be like out of office all the time. So, it's a simple thing too, but just be mindful of it. If you're wanting to keep this communication super open, do that. Keep it super open. And then last but not least, I mentioned this last time too, never hurts, I find. Use experiential learning to your advantage, right? Invite them to a class, invite them to a session, invite them to a workshop you're doing. When they see you in action, and if you can, see the response of your audience, your population, your clients, your patients, things will click a lot better. Sometimes we just need to see it. And I do find in culinary medicine, there's a lot of misconceptions. We all have different ideas of what this is. And everybody else out there does too, right? Some people think we're doing like a morning show cooking segment. Some people think we're professional chefs and this is chopped. Some people think we're just telling people what to eat and writing meal plans, right? There's even if cooking has evolved, people don't always make that leap. A lot of what I've encountered actually doing teaching kitchens in a private practice setting is that there's a lot of like cooking classes are very much viewed as a funsy activity, not an educational self-improvement activity in a sense. So how I present what I'm offering makes a big difference to who I'm getting. And I've learned that, right? So but that's still like everybody kind of has their own preconceptions or misconceptions of what we do. So if you can show them, you can get that I think that will be the magic right there. I'm not saying it's a guaranteed yes by any means, but it gives them so much more information that you can't necessarily fit into an elevator pitch, right? Um, so I always like to encourage that. It might be a little scary. None of us like to be watched. I don't think anybody likes to be watched. Being on a pedestal is always a little intimidating, but it is so worth it, right? If you can make those light bulb moments happen for these constituents and stakeholders. So get out there, do it, do the thing. Take home message. After all of that, I hope that was valuable for first of all, but advocacy is a part of our work. Even if it's not super active and it's a little bit more passive, you're just championing things. That is cool. Again, there's no right or wrong or no degrees you have to take this to. I just want to encourage you and help you think of it in a different perspective so that it doesn't feel as daunting or intimidating or as conflicty. Yeah. Really, it just creates more opportunities to amplify what you're doing and creates opportunities maybe where there were none before. We can't expand our impact if people don't know what we're doing or understand our value. We can only do so much in the dark. So the other thing is less is more. Keep it simple and direct. Simple and direct. If you play that right, if you keep it simple and direct, they'll get curious and interested, and then you can share more. Kind of feed it to them slowly. Don't just dump it all at once. Just like with our patients and clients, right? We might have a lot we want to share with them, but we don't just go from 0 to 60, right? We one step at a time. Same thing with advocacy, one step at a time. You don't have to take it home in the first encounter. All right. And just a little self-empowerment reminder. Remember to take care of yourself, please. Advocacy work can be exhausting, and I find it is mentally taxing because we do get passionate about things, and that passion tends to run in the back of our brains, even if we're not actively working. It's also easy if you do a lot of advocacy work to start to forget that your program and practice already has efficacy. It already speaks for itself. You are not on trial to prove anything. You are choosing to prove it to people so you can have more impact. That is all. That's it. You don't actually have to do this, but you're actively choosing to so you can reach more and magnify things. So just keep that in mind. If it is too taxing, pull it back. Take care of yourself. Don't burn yourself out advocating, and try not to, you don't have to do everything all the time either, right? Choose the path that feels best for you and aligns with your natural strengths and abilities. Advocacy takes many different forms, and they are, pick the one that works best for you. There's no one true form. Thank you. Thank you for being here. I'm going to wrap up. I have a few more minutes here. But just as a reminder, everyone on the call will receive your certificate of attendance for your half hour of CE credit and an entry into the prize drawing, not today, sorry, but the prize drawing for our next resources, which is the Complete Recipe Writing Guide by Rayanne Sarasan. It's a lovely, lovely tome of a manual, but it has anything and everything you would ever want to know about writing recipes and developing them and photographing them. It's a great resources to have on hand. So that we'll be giving away that in November on the November call. Our next call is on the 21st of October. So hopefully I will see you there. I think on this next call, well, I don't remember what I thought I was going to talk about. I think I'm going to focus on starting to do more with less, right? Using the resources you have, kind of teaching kitchens without a kitchen, if you will. So that'll be a really, really hot topic, I feel. And then I am going to offer a bonus call on October 7th, same time, 3 o'clock Eastern. My assistant is going to put that link in the chat, and you can just register there. I will also send it out in my after email for today's call. Thank you, Rowena. Appreciate that. On October 7th, this is not going to be another Infuse call. This is like a bonus call, and it's just going to be us workshopping your elevator pitch or justification statement. So if this is something you've been working on, or do you just have something and you want to refine it, please bring it. Please show up. And this is like the work, not just the information. This is the workshop bit here. So we can bring that up to speed. I can help you hone it, make sure it aligns with your values, feels good, meets all those ethical parameters, and is relevant to whoever you're presenting it to. So we'll have a chance to workshop that. I felt like I wanted to do that on this call, but time constraints just don't let us, and I cannot possibly serve everybody all at once. So we'll do that bonus call on the 7th. Just click that link there, go ahead and sign up. And again, if you want to sign up later in email, I'll also put the link in the email, but go ahead and get it now before you forget if it's something you want to do. And again, everybody that was in attendance today will receive one entry to the prize drawing in November. Every time you attend, you get another entry. So if you attend September, October, November, you get 3 entries into the prize drawing. So it is worth it to attend live. That way you get some nice resources out of it. And last but not least, we have an Infuse community group. I just started on LinkedIn. I haven't done too much with it, but I'm hoping to build it up. So we have some more dialogue in there too. Please share this call with anybody that you think would benefit, any other colleagues in the culinary medicine, teaching kitchen world, or even adjacent to that might be allies in this space. And go ahead and add that October 21st call to your calendar right now if you haven't already. Okay. And that's it. All right. That's all I got for you guys today. Thanks for staying with me. I appreciate that. I get so jazzed by these calls, guys. I'm just like on a high the whole rest of the day. I hope you found this information encouraging and not discouraging by any means. And oh, thanks, Renata. Oh, good. That's what I needed to hear. Yeah, if again, please open invitation. Even if you're just watching this as a replay, you can still come to that October 7th meeting to workshop some things. Yeah. All right. You guys are great. I'll be sending the CE certificates out via email. And I'll keep the chat on just for a little bit longer here if I have any questions roll in. Other than that, I will see you next time, October 21st. Bye, guys.